Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And you see, got my Kansas City Chiefs shirt here. We're on today because they're playing later tonight, early evening, against the Buffalo Bills, playoff time. So if they don't win this, it's season's over. So be rooting for my Chiefs this evening. We're wearing this shirt, and just today, I'm going back to trying to go back to some of my lists that I've made. I've kind of gone off some of the lists and rankings I've been doing recently because it's Christmas time, so I was doing Christmas stuff, and then I was doing the end of the year stuff after that. So I'm trying to get back into what I was doing. One of the things was I was ranking all the Beatles songs, all I forget what it was, 200 and some songs. I'm ranking down from worst to best. Anyway, so I'm down to 151 through 147 is what I'm going to cover in this video. Again, this is what I would call the Beatles songs I think are okay, not great, not bad, just kind of in the middle songs. Songs I don't often listen to too often. Anyways, so 151 is I Want to Be Your Man. It's on the album with the Beatles, their second album. Of course, Ringo sings it. Written by Lennon McCartney. I think mostly by Lennon. And it was kind of written in the style of the Shirley's Boys song. Basically, they want to try to redo what they that song, The Boys, which came off the first album, I believe, with Ringo singing the song. And it's kind of became Ringo's marquee song that he sings all the time. Anytime they do a concert, that's kind of his go-to solo song. You know, yeah, pretty much throughout their whole touring years because once we get to Yellow Submarine and A Little Help from My Friends, they weren't touring anymore, and those are kind of his big songs. But at this point, Boys was kind of the big song for Ringo in a sense, so they're trying to recapture that, I think, with this song, I Want to Be Your Man. It has kind of a similar feel to it. Um, and of course, famously, this was a song that they gave to the Rolling Stones to sing. I believe I didn't write down my notes. I wrote these notes a while ago, and I'm just now getting back to my notes. I didn't write this down because I think I looked up information, and I believe that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, went to the Beatles and was like, "Hey, do you have a song we can use?" Because I don't think the Rolling Stones had quite hit. I don't think they were quite that big yet, or had to hit the really hit song yet. And they weren't. I think they're just beginning to be songwriters. And so they didn't really have a lot of songs written ready to go yet. And so I think they saw Lennon McCartney or somewhere, and they said, "Hey, do you guys have a song we can use that you're not using?" Basically, and of course, and then Lennon, I think, gave them this song, "I Want to Be Your Man," which they turned into a decent hit, I believe. That was on the radio, and they used sitar on it. And it was a decent song for the Rolling Stones. In fact, probably a better song for them than the Beatles, just because uh, the Beatles had Ringo singing the song, and probably not quite as good as Mick Jagger. Is a little more better vocalist and better at use of attitude during the song. He's just really good at with the attitude. Um, really comes out in his music. And of course, Lennon said later, I think that we're not going to give them A material. We're kind of like "I Want to Be Your Man" was kind of like B material song that he had laying around. That was like, yeah, sure, have this one. I don't think it's going to be a huge hit. So, they ended up putting it on their album too, and never a big hit or anything. But just another Ringo song, and not to down on Ringo, he just was the least effective singer in the group, least vocal range, and so his songs were never really that good early on. Anyway, so that's why I have it here at 151. Um, Number 150, I have a song called "Little Child." Uh, it's also on the album with the Beatles. It was a Lennon McCartney song. It was mostly John's idea of a song. It's only a minute 48. I wrote that down because it's always astonished me how short these songs are. But I mean, under 2 minutes, that's pretty short. So it wasn't a big, again, not an A material song. It was kind of another B material song that Lennon and McCartney were putting out constantly. These songs, some of them really stuck good, and some of them just were not that great, but good enough to make an album because they needed to fill out. They were making 2 albums a year, so they really needed the material to fill them out. Um, it's believed that it probably was written originally for Ringo again, or to give to another group, just like "I Want to Be Your Man." It felt like that kind of a song, where it's like this isn't going to do anything. It's not going to be a hit single. We can throw it to another band, or just have Ringo sing it. They didn't care, but end up John, I think, mostly sings the song. What I read, it said that the melody was inspired by American songwriters Eddie Pola, I'm probably not pronouncing it right, and George Weil, who were songwriters who wrote old folk songs and ballads. So he's trying to, sounds like Lennon's trying to write the melody off of these two songwriters that are popular at the time, and try to make it a folk ballad type song or something. Anyways, and it's okay. Again, it's kind of a forgettable song in the Beatles catalog. That's why I have it here at 150. There's a part where they sing, little child, won't you dance with me? I'm so sad and lonely, and they kind of go in this high pitch, kind of this weird. It's kind of a weird vocal that I don't think I've ever heard them do before, where they kind of have this kind of, I feel so sad and lonely, and it's just kind of a weird vocal that they do there, and I actually kind of like it. It makes the song a little more unique, and makes it kind of more interesting song. I've heard some people say they hate the song because they hate that part. That's their least favorite part is when they do the high register part on that. But I actually kind of enjoy that. But yeah, I have it there at 150. Number 149, I have Roll Over Beethoven. Obviously, it's a Chuck Berry hit song from 1956. Beatles obviously very influenced by Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry is one of the biggest musicians at that time in the 50s when they were listening to rock and roll music. So, I mean, this was, definitely an honor for them to do one of Chuck Berry's songs, and as one of their kind of idols growing up. Anyway, so I've heard the Chuck Berry song a couple times. Of course, I usually listen to the Beatles version. I can't say which one's better. They're both about equal to me. But it was a big hit for Chuck Berry. It was number 97 in Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs, so it made it onto the 500 Greatest Songs list for Rolling Stones. It was also added to the National Registry, Recording Registry in 2003. So that was pretty big. This is another song that came off the album with the Beatles. One of the cover songs that they did. I think they did like 6 or so cover songs. And George Harrison sings the song and plays the guitar on it, which is pretty impressive because it's pretty good guitar work. It's Chuck Berry. He's a great guitar player. And so George does a great job with the guitar and vocally does a good job with the song. And it's a decent rock and roll, 50s rock and roll song. It's not my favorite type of music necessarily. And Chuck Berry is okay. He's not my favorite musician. Some of the stuff is okay. I'm trying to think that one hit song. One song he has I really like, but that's about it. Um, and so this seems to be a George song that seemed to be one of his marquee songs. It felt like early on. Anytime I saw him in concert, it seemed like this was like Lennon McCartney sang pretty much almost all the music, except they gave one song to like George singing a concert, maybe one to Ringo. And their concerts were only like 30 minutes long or 45 minutes long, so there wasn't that much music. So they would throw it to George, and I think George usually would sing this song. It seemed like this was his biggest song up to this point. Obviously, he didn't become a big songwriter yet until pretty much after they stopped touring. That's when he came with his best work, and they didn't even tour that stuff. So this seemed to be a big one for George. Anytime I see a Beatles tribute band, this is almost as always in their list. The George character always sings this song. It seems like it seems like a popular one amongst the Beatles. Number 148, I have another George Harrison song called "I Me Mine." Came off the Let It Be album. Written and sung by George. Has a little bluesy feel. Interesting song. Of course, George at this time was big into Hinduism and basically the philosophy of Hinduism, which is, he says to get rid of the ego, which is your selfishness, I guess. Try to get rid of the selfishness inside and, try to be non-selfish, be selfless towards others, I guess. Probably, I don't know much about Hindu, but I think that's kind of the philosophy there. They're very minimalist, they don't wear fancy clothes and they shave their heads or whatever, and they don't eat meat. I don't know. So I, Me, Mine, it's kind of an interesting title because, I, me, and mine are all titles for talking about yourself, so it's very egotistical wording there, I, me, mine, but the song's about getting rid of that. Anyways, and it's a decent, I guess, rock song. It's okay melody, decent vocals by George, but it doesn't really go anywhere for me. It doesn't have the great harmonies or great nothing. The guitar playing nothing spectacular. No great melody or harmony. It's just okay. So I have that 148. And the last song I'm talking about, 147, is The End, which came basically at the end of the Abbey Roads album, not counting Majesty or whatever. That came at the really technically the very end of the album, of the basically the last album that they made. So this is kind of almost like the last song of the last album, which is so it's a very good title for the last song called The End. Obviously, a Lennon McCartney song. Paul mostly he wrote the last line, which is the biggest part of the song, I think. The song is really just a jam fest. A little bit of a drum solo in there for George or for Ringo, which didn't do many drum solos, and then the three other Beatles, Paul, George, and John, did the guitar soloing, and they kind of took turns doing a little bit of guitar solo, and that's the big part of the song. And then at the very end, you have the piano, which I like. I like that very end the most. The piano coming in, and them singing, "And in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take," whatever. Great line at the end, and some great harmonies, and really great. Like I love that last part, and that's why I probably put it up at 147. Besides that, most of the song is really not, like I said, it's just a jam fest. It's not much of a Beatles song, so to say. Not much lyrics in there, melodies or harmonies until the very end. I mean, the guitar playing is pretty good. I mean, it's good guitar playing, but there's not enough there for me to really. It's not a song I listen to very often for that, but I do commend them on good musicianship, and also I wish the very end was the whole song. Like if they could have made that very last part like that piano melody and created a whole verse chorus song out of it, I think it could have been a really good song. But it's to me almost a throwaway song in a sense in that way. But yeah, so that's the number 147 on my list, and that's the last one I'm talking about in this video. Now continue on at 146 on. Anyway, so tell me what you think about these songs. Were they on your list, or if you had a list, are they towards the bottom or the top or in the middle like I have them? Feel free to comment. Enjoy seeing those. And just thank you to everybody that's watching this, and to anybody who liked the video. Appreciate it. And just to all the subscribers, I appreciate your support. And just have a good day. Have a good day. Go Chiefs.